Today's video is sponsored by SquareSpace, a platform where you can design beautiful websites and host your online store. Alright, so I'm just about to take a photograph of the Milky Way with a smartphone. I've got the Google Pixel 5 here, which has a built-in astrophotography mode. But in today's video, we're going to take a look at other smartphones as well, just have a general look at astrophotography with a smartphone, because the tech is getting really interesting. But basically, to use the astrophotography mode on the Google Pixels, you need to have the camera mounted to a tripod or just rested on the floor. It just needs to be perfectly still. And then when you're in the night sight mode, it gives you the option of using the astrophotography mode. So I've got my phone mounted onto a tripod here, and it's automatically brought up the astrophotography mode. Got a nice little scene with some sea stacks and the waves and the Milky Way. It's not the darkest location, but I'm hoping the Milky Way shows up, so let's give it a go. Now, as you can see, the camera starts a 4-minute timer, but if you were in a darker location, it might be 3 minutes or 2 minutes. The camera decides how long you need to expose for. In fact, it chooses all of the settings for you. There's no manual control. You just put the smartphone on a tripod and press the shutter button, and it does everything for you. And then it pops up with these instructional messages and motivational messages like stay still and wait a little bit longer for better image quality, collecting more light for a better exposure. So it's really cool, and it's really accessible for complete beginners into astrophotography. Now, you're not actually taking a 4-minute exposure. The camera is taking multiple 15-second exposures, and it stacks those to remove the noise. So the noise is the grainy texture and discoloration you get in low light photographs. And the noise is randomly distributed in every image. So when you create an average of multiple exposures, the random noise gets averaged out, and the scene, which remains constant throughout, shines through, and that veil of noise that's over the scene is removed. And so you end up with a good looking image with no visible noise. Now, it's pretty amazing that it's doing all of that in the smartphone, because if you just stack those images straight away, you lose the stars, because the stars move in every image. So the smartphone is taking the foreground, stacking and averaging that. Then it's taking the sky, aligning all the stars in each of the images, stacking and averaging that, and blending it back on to the foreground. So it's pretty impressive. Now, I'm a bit of an idiot, because at the end of my Portugal trip, I sold the Pixel 5 to Brendan Danson, and I forgot to back up all of the images to my cloud storage. So I don't have the image that I took on the beach at night, but luckily I do have images that I took with the Pixel 4 last year. So this image from the Brecon Beacons showing the Milky Way above two of the peaks in the Brecon Beacons, Penavan and Corndine. If you zoom in, you can see just how clean the image is. Or if I show you this image directly looking up at the Milky Way, again, you can see a very clean, nice looking image. And then another image taken in the Brecon Beacons. This time you can see Pleiades in the night sky, and because there's a bit of moonlight, the foreground detail is amazing, and it just looks really clean. It just doesn't look like a smartphone image. And you guys sent me some images from the Google Pixel phones as well. So Tony from Cornwall sent in this picture of the Milky Way core with a wind turbine. Again, the image quality is really, really impressive. And also this image from Pat Keller, I think from the Pixel 4, just really amazing quality. And when I asked you guys on Instagram to send me your smartphone astro photographs, I was overwhelmed. You guys sent me so many different pictures of different subjects in the night sky from countries all around the world. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to include everybody's images in this video, but thank you all so much for sending in those images. And before we look at all of those, all of the different techniques that you can use for smartphone astrophotography and all the different things you can photograph, I just want to mention that I've put all of this into a blog post on my website. And that leads me to the sponsors of today's video, Squarespace. My website's been hosted on Squarespace for the past 5 or 6 years now. I use it as a blog for articles like this, which I admittedly do need to write more of. But it's also a gallery host for my images, and the good thing is your images don't get compressed like they do on social media. They upload in full resolution, full quality, as you want them to be seen. And then you can also use Squarespace websites as e-commerce websites. So I sell my Astro Workflow Lightroom presets on there. Squarespace handles the payments, they host the files. Everything's very automated and easy. I just love it. So if you want to give it a go, head on over to squarespace.com/Alan. You can use one of their award-winning themes. A lot of those themes have been designed with photographers in mind as well. And then you can customize that theme to your heart's content. It's drag and drop. It's seriously easy. And starting with that theme, you just have a really nice looking website. I love the look of my website. It's just nice and professional and clean. And it was so easy to set up and get it looking how I wanted. And then if you want to continue with your website, if you're happy with Squarespace, you can use the code ALIN to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain name. Now that you guys have sent me images from all over the world of all sorts of different subjects. So a quick summary. The top two smartphone brands were Huawei and Xiaomi. And they were sort of closely followed by the Google Pixels, iPhone. There was also OnePlus and Redmi. And then we had a few odd ones from the Moto One Action, Samsung Galaxy phones, LG G4, and also the Poco Phone F1. So the good thing is now a lot of smartphones capture RAW files when you're using the Pro mode in the camera app. And then you could take those RAW files and stack them in a program like Sequitur. And I have a video on my channel all about how to stack images in Sequitur. So do go and check that out if you're interested. But to give you a really good example of how good images can look when you stack them, let's start by looking at an astrophotography legend, Nico Carver, aka Nebula Photos, on YouTube. He was using a Huawei P30 Pro and he stacked 60 30-second exposures. So that's a total of 30 minutes taking photos, and then he stacked those 60 photos using PixInsight. And the resulting image is absolutely stunning. It's hard to even tell that it was taken on a smartphone. And if you're not following Nico on YouTube already, make sure to head over to his channel and hit subscribe. He's got some really amazing videos about doing astrophotography on a budget. So if you're a smartphone astrophotographer, those kind of videos would be right up your street. Now, perhaps the most impressive example of stacking was sent to me by Lucas from Brazil. He was using a Xiaomi Mi 9T. And this image of the Milky Way, he captured over 3 nights. No star tracker, just taking images from his smartphone on a tripod. And he collected a total of 470 15-second exposures. And like Nico, he also stacked in PixInsight. And the result is absolutely incredible. I was blown away by this image. For that to come from a smartphone, it's mind-blowing. And he also sent in some other really amazing images, like this one showing the Carina Nebula in the southern hemisphere Milky Way, and also a nice image of the large Magellanic Clouds. These images were just absolutely superb, and I think the best ones that were sent in. Another couple examples of stacking was sent in by Okan Bozat from Turkey. He was also using the Xiaomi Mi 10T, and in these images here of the Milky Way core, he stacked 6 exposures taken from the normal camera app in the Xiaomi phone. And he also made an astro vlog where he captured these images. So head on over to his YouTube channel. But unfortunately his videos are in Turkish. O yüzden Türkçe konuşuyorsanız eğer mutlaka Okan'ın YouTube kanalına git çünkü efsane videolar var. Now Okan also put the Xiaomi phone on a star tracker. He was using the Move Shoot Move star tracker. By the way, you can get 5% off the Move Shoot Move star tracker using code ALIN. But he captured this absolutely incredible image of the Milky Way core again, and using that star tracker just enabled him to do longer exposures and just get better image quality, and the result just speaks for itself. It's absolutely amazing. Now, another way to improve your astrophotos, and this applies to normal sort of DSLR mirrorless cameras as well as smartphones, is to do a panorama. Because when you do a panorama, you increase the resolution and detail of your image, and the noise, the grain that you don't want, becomes smaller relative to the overall size of the frame. So doing panoramas is a really good way to improve the quality of your astro photographs. And I was sent some panoramas by Astropolo, and you can see here he sent a screenshot where he was using the app PT GUI to stitch his panoramas. That's the same software that I use to stitch my panoramas, but you can also use Lightroom and Photoshop or some other panorama stitching software. And then the resulting image of this lighthouse in Uruguay is just absolutely incredible. It's so highly detailed, it looks amazing. And again, this is from a smartphone. It's absolutely crazy. And he also sent me a couple of other examples of the Milky Way arching across the night sky, which also include the small and large Magellanic Clouds. And he stacked 5 images for each frame of the panorama. So every time he took a frame of the panorama, he took 5 images there, 5 images there, stacked those first, and then created a panorama out of the stacked images. So he's taken advantage of the stacking to get rid of the noise reduction, and the panorama to improve the detail and the quality of his images. And again, the results are just absolutely amazing. Another little trick with smartphones is that you can use them with a telescope. You can take pictures through the eyepiece of a telescope using your smartphone. So I was sent a bunch of pictures, first up taken with an iPhone 6 through an 8-inch Dobsonian telescope by Logan from Louisiana. He's got a great collection of images. So a lunar eclipse, which is just absolutely beautiful, and also took some amazing planet images of Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars. Just amazing detail, just snapped through the eyepiece of a Dobsonian telescope. And also using an 8-inch Dobsonian telescope was Sidewalk Astro. He was also using an iPhone, but it was a 7 Plus. And the detail in his moon photograph is just superb. And he also sent in a really, really nice picture of Saturn as well. So teaming up a smartphone with a Dobsonian telescope is a really good way to do moon and planet photographs. Southern Astrophotographer also sent me some images through his Celestron 130 SLT. This one here of the Orion Nebula, and also a really cool one of when Mercury was transiting the sun a couple of years ago. And he was using the iPhone app Nightcap on an iPhone SE. A lot of people using iPhones, at least the older iPhones, have been using Nightcap. But on people who sent me images from the iPhone 11 and 12 Pro, they've just been using the built-in camera app because I think it's improved a lot in recent years. Now, I was also sent a bunch of images that look as if they've been taken through a telescope, but they haven't. People have just literally been using the zoom on the smartphone camera app to get up close and personal to objects in the night sky. So we have this image sent in by Almatsum Almadi, and he stacked 150 images, which he captured with a Huawei Mate 20 Pro, and you can just make out the spiral galaxy Andromeda. So literally photographing another galaxy with a smartphone and no telescope. Like, think about that. Like, if somebody said that to you 5 years ago, you'd call them crazy and say it just wasn't possible. And yet here we are. It's really mind-blowing. And there was another example of the Andromeda Galaxy sent in to me by Jashandeep Singh, who used the zoom mode on his Realme XT phone, and he stacked 90 10-second exposures. So taking advantage of that stacking technique, using Sequitur to get some nice images using the zoom on a smartphone. What's going on? And Jashandeep also sent me an image of a partial solar eclipse through some thin cloud using his old black sunglasses as a filter. I thought that was really cool. And for me, it was actually quite reminiscent because I think it was back in 2014, we had a partial solar eclipse in the UK. This was just before I got my first camera. And I took an image of that partial solar eclipse using, I guess I was using a Google Pixel phone back then, I'm not sure. But I took that image of a partial eclipse. And it wasn't long after that that I eventually bought my first DSLR, a Canon 100D. So smartphone astrophotography now is really providing an accessible way for people to try astrophotography. And I imagine in quite a lot of cases, myself included, it leads on to people buying bigger cameras and bigger lenses and really getting into the hobby. And it's just awesome to see that astrophotography is becoming so accessible. Now, talking of zoomed images, we have to talk about moon photographs taken with Huawei phones, because the Huawei phones have an artificial intelligence built into them so that they know when they're photographing the moon, and they enhance the image of the moon. So I was sent some images by, I was sent a few images, mostly taken with the P30 Pro and the P40 Pro. So there's one from Les Altaman in Kazakhstan, one from Dakri Unverbistu and Panagiotis from Greece. Just beautiful images of the moon taken with nothing but a smartphone. And I thought this one was pretty amazing too. It's from the P30 Pro and it was sent in by Vispat, of the moon and a conjunction of Jupiter of Saturn. So in this one you can kind of see that there's a bit of artificial intelligence and processing going on, but it's still pretty impressive for a smartphone. And it's interesting the ways that they're taking advantage of software and artificial intelligence to improve photographs from such a tiny little sensor. I was also sent a bunch of star trail images. I think the Huawei phones have a star trail mode built in, but other people were using two different apps, both Android apps, one called Star Trails and one called Light Trails. So you can actually do star trails in camera. But of course, you can take the images yourself and stack those in an app on your PC, like Star Stacks, for example. And I have a video about how to create star trail images using Star Stacks on my YouTube channel, so I'll link that above and down below. But you can download an intervalometer app or a screen pressing app, which basically presses an area on your screen, on your phone, over a set interval. So that way you can open the camera app and set another app to press the shutter button every 30 seconds or something like that, allowing you to take consecutive images to stack into a star trail. But an example here from Backyard Space Dude, he was using the iPhone app that I've already mentioned, Nightcap, so that's got a built-in star trail mode, and he's also picked up a number of satellites and also some meteors as well, which is really nice. V18 opted for the manual stacking method using Star Stacks for his images, which he captured with the Poco phone F1, which is a budget phone, so it's awesome to see astrophotography being done on a budget phone. And he used the Comet mode to get nice tapered trails. And another really nice example stacked in Star Stacks was sent in by Pata Nahi, who used a Realme 6 Pro for this image, which also has a really nice foreground included too. So I really liked that one, a very clean, nice looking image. And then Genderful used the Android app Light Trails, also used the Comet mode to get those nice tapered ends, and also captured some fireflies as well. I thought that was super awesome. And just another quick example from George in Cyprus, he used a different app called the Star Trails app. That's available in the Android store, and he was stacking images from a Xiaomi Mi 9T. And in the same principle to take in consecutive images for a star trail, you can use those images to create a time lapse. And these two were sent in by Zenderful, who's using a Huawei phone, one of the Aurora with a smartphone, and then another really nice time lapse of the Milky Way rising. So astro time lapses with a smartphone. Oh my God. And I forgot to mention the Google Pixel phones in the latest update, whenever you take a picture using the astrophotography mode, it automatically creates a little time lapse out of all of the 15-second exposures that it captures. So it's only like a 1 or 2 second long time lapse, but still, it's a pretty neat little feature. It would just be nice if they extended that so you could do a much longer time lapse with the Pixel phones. To wrap up, I was also really impressed by the amount of different subjects you guys photographed. We've already included like the Milky Way and planets and the moon and the Aurora. We also had some images of Comet NEOWISE, this one here from Les Alterman in Kazakhstan, taken on a Huawei P30 Pro. And I imagine a lot of people photographing Comet NEOWISE with a smartphone was their first dabble into astrophotography, and perhaps they've gone on to buying bigger cameras and bigger lenses and getting into it a lot more, because Comet NEOWISE was just incredibly inspiring. And another image of Comet NEOWISE sent in by my friend Adam Tatton Reed in the Brecon Beacons from one of my favourite locations, Ponstickill Reservoir. Nice little image there of Comet NEOWISE. Now, I already showed you the Aurora time-lapse from Zenderful. He also sent me an image of the Aurora, and I also received an Aurora image from Mikey, who captured this image in Norway. Didn't have a tripod, so he captured this image handheld, a handheld image of the Aurora with a smartphone. We also had a couple of nice images of the Noctilucent Clouds. This one from Dakri, again with the Huawei P30 Pro, really, really nice. And I love this image from Roman in Dublin, who was using a Samsung Galaxy S20. Really clean looking image, a very, very nice image. Nicely composed as well. I really like this one. And then another example from Faisal's night photography, this time captured in Germany. So really awesome to see people photographing the Noctilucent Clouds with a smartphone. And I was also sent this really cool image of the Milky Way, which is a single exposure taken with an iPhone 12 Pro Max from the cockpit of a 737 plane. This one from Riding Shotgun 737. I thought that was really, really cool. And that's the kind of office I'd like to be working from. And lastly, whilst not quite astrophotography, let's say, I had to share this image of lightning captured by Eugene in the Philippines back when Volcano Tal was erupting, and just like a absolutely mind-blowing image. So guys, I hope you found this video interesting, useful, inspiring. I mean, it's really, really impressive what you can do with a smartphone camera these days, and hopefully some of the tips and tricks from this video will help you improve those images further. And if you have enjoyed this video and if you found it useful, please hit that subscribe button. We're getting very close to 100,000 subscribers, which is absolutely crazy. And yeah, if you're going out to enjoy the night sky anytime soon, I wish you good luck and clear skies.